Welcome back. I am John P. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you how I was actually very pleasantly surprised by Hublot. Now, this is not going to be me sharing with you too much about Hublot and the criticisms about the brand and the company and the watches. I will say that for those of you that are new to watch collecting, or maybe you've missed the conversation, sometimes Hublot is frowned down upon or looked or really cast aside from the watch enthusiast community because of what they were at one point in time. They were watches where people would want something large and chunky and flashy and to show off, and the movements a lot of times were very undecorated or very lackluster in terms of the presentation, the finishing, and the true horological value behind the watches. Hublot has come out with some interesting watches at a very high price point, though nonetheless, generally they were considered by hardcore enthusiasts and true watch collectors to have been a little bit passé and a little bit not for them. Not entirely true for all watch collectors, but that is kind of the feeling that many watch collectors had about Hublot years ago, but even today, a lot of this still remains. That's all I'll say about that. But surprisingly, I recently visited an Hublot boutique, experienced some of the watches, as well as the overall experience, and I was pretty impressed. I'm going to share with you why I was impressed and also why I would encourage you to check out a boutique in the watches for yourself and kind of try to cast away that herd mentality for a second and just see if maybe these watches appeal to you. Before we do that, of course, on the wrist today, Rolex OP39 Red Grape. My almost everyday wear. I love this watch. You can see more about this watch on my Instagram, The Real John P. And yes, I know the Rolex market took quite a bit hit recently, though I still love and enjoy this watch. And luckily, I actually paid about retail or close to it when it came out. So it's on my wrist. What can I say? What can I say about that? But Hublot watches. Now, here's the thing. I was sitting in a shopping mall. It's not like I went out of my way to go there, right? I didn't plan a trip to an Hublot boutique, but I was sitting in this, upscale shopping mall in South Florida, and I heard this pumping music, right? I heard like a DJ. I thought maybe they were having like a party or something, and I look over, and there was a small little crowd and some champagne, and they had some people serving food and things outside the Hublot boutique. But I thought, maybe there was some kind of event going on. But after I had lunch, I walked over there with my friend, and we were kind of, greeted by all of these employees and the staff, and it just turned out to be that apparently this is what the boutique is doing now to attract the attention of shoppers, is they're handing out champagne, not even inside the boutique, but it's outside of the boutique to really get you to come in. And I thought that was kind of interesting, right? Yes, I get it, a little bit of a gimmick, though it really starts the entire experience early before you get in the door. And I thought that was interesting. I haven't seen a boutique really try to grab you and pull you in, almost like one of those kiosks in a mall where they offer to buff your shoe and sell you the shoe polish, or one of those facial cream stands where there's always the guy that calls you over to sell you the cream. You know what I mean. If you go to a mall, you know exactly what I mean. So I kind of felt that like that, though a little bit more, significantly more upscale. But you go into the boutique, and first of all, they have done an amazing job truly structuring and building out the boutiques to just be an attractive, nice, pleasant place to be in. It's very clear that they put a lot of attention to detail in the layout of the boutique. Everything is very shiny and the lighting is perfect. Everything is perfect. I've been into so many boutiques, and that's not always the case, but the way that they've built this out, they truly, every step along the way in the boutique, the whole experience really seemed to fit. And the team that was working at the boutique really knew their watches, right? A lot of times you'll go to a boutique or go to an authorized dealer, and they will just put, someone that looks nice maybe behind the counter, or someone that was a friend of a friend, or maybe they've read a couple of snippets on the watches. But I would say they were so friendly. Now, Hublot did have ladies that were working there that looked like they easily could have doubled as, fashion models or something like that, amateur fashion models. So I won't say that they didn't do that, but they also really knew their stuff. They knew the watches. One of them, I was actually wearing a Gerald Genta Jump Hour of all things. And, one of the ladies I was working there actually, was able to pick out what watch it was. And it wasn't because of, her being a model or anything like that. It's just because typically that's an unknown watch. And typically people that are working at the boutiques, regardless of who they are, just boutiques have a difficult time finding watch professionals in general. The watch professionals, if you really have that passion for watches, a lot of times you either keep it your passion or you break out into your own, start trading watches, or you work for one of the big places. Very rarely is that the case where you can walk into a boutique with something obscure on your wrist and they pick it out, especially an Hublot boutique. So I was just so blown away and impressed by the entire staff in there. They're all very friendly, right? A lot of complaints about boutiques sometimes are you walk into a boutique of any brand or an authorized dealer and they tell you, oh, there's a wait list for this, wait list for that. And you get this feeling sometimes of maybe them not caring. But this particular one, everyone was amazing. Every single person was just so kind, and they offered you, of course, the champagne, but they also offered you to try on all the watches, and they offered to give you the magazines and ask you about what's in your collection and truly get to understand the types of things that you're interested in watches. And I think that's so important. It just showed that there was so much training and attention to detail in the boutique. Now, I will say, after I started putting some of the watches on the wrist, I walked in the door as almost a bit, I won't say joke, but I really had low expectations. I hadn't looked at Hublot in a while. We don't carry a lot of Hublot at Delray Watch. It's just not something that customers are generally asking for. So of course we don't stock it. We may have one or two actually at the time of the shooting, but there's ceramic case watches, for example. I was very impressed. Now, this is going to be not something that's only unique to Hublot. Zenith is producing the ceramic case watches as well with their Defy collection. And actually, the Hublot watches are using the Zenith movements, right? In the chronographs from Hublot, they're using the El Primero or a variant, the Hublot version of the El Primero, and they're also using the Zenith Elite calibers in some of their other watches. So the watches in themselves do have, good workhorse movements, proven movements. Now, the movements are generally undecorated, even on their $100,000 plus watches, but I was impressed with the watches. In general, the ceramic cases felt very nice. Some of the larger case sizes that were too chunky and big, even though they had an over 40 millimeter size, 44, 43, 42, even a little bit higher than that, some of the watches, they did feel very comfortable on the wrists. And I was very surprised by that because generally chunkier watches don't work for me with a very small wrist, but in general, that can be off-putting for some. So I was very impressed by that. Now, they also had a bit of an unveiling showcase where they were showing some of their new pieces, right? Some of the sapphire cased watches. Now, I will say that for some of the price points that Hublot is charging retail, it doesn't make sense. Now, while I say I was very impressed by the watches, the quality, how they felt on the wrist, and of course, what horological value they did provide, for the price point, even from within the LVMH family of brands, you can get basically the same thing for a fraction of the price. So it is very clear that a lot of it is coming down to branding and where they want to position themselves in the market based on where they were as well as the experience, right? I would say that the boutique made a big deal about the ceramic cases, though Zenith does this, right? They have ceramic variants of some of their watches. They made a big deal about some of the sapphire cases, but other brands do this, right? There's a brand that's even more approachable for a sapphire case called like Aventi or something like that. I'm not co-signing the brand. I don't know a lot about them, but they do have, several $1,000 watches that are made with sapphire watch cases. And Hublot wants to charge you $30,000, but with complication, nearly $190,000 in some cases when you start popping a tourbillon into some of these watches. So the prices really do creep up there. But when I put it on my wrist, I would say, something for like a $30,000 Hublot watch in ceramic, I would really enjoy and love that watch. I just think it needs to be about $5,000 to $6,000 personally for me. But if they somehow were offering their watches at a lower price point, I think really commensurate for the horological value that they were at, I think a lot more watch collectors would love it, right? The whole experience, everyone in the boutique knew watches. The whole thing was fun. They wanted you to walk in, right? You go next door to Rolex, they don't want you to walk in. You go to, I won't say which authorized dealer, but big box authorized dealer that has many brands. You walk in there, the staff is low energy. They'll sell you a watch, but they don't care what's in your collection. You go to Hublot, they want to know everything about you. They want to know everything. You are the star of the show. Multiple sales staff, they make you the center of attention. I mean, I even felt myself almost falling for it, right? I was holding this overpriced Hublot ceramic watch in my hand, and the music, the music hits just right. I didn't have the champagne, but they had it there. The whole ambiance, I could see how this might actually work for them in certain conditions. And I think if they did lower their prices, it would be a knockout. I know that they can afford to do it. I know the margin's there because they do comparable things from brands in the same house like Zenith. Overall, Hublot's offering a very great experience. I don't know what their sales numbers look like, but I think if they can work with the price, work with the consumer, and bring it down just a little bit, more watch enthusiasts would start to consider and maybe even eat them up as we break away from kind of the stigma that Hublot has gained for itself in the watch collecting community. But what do you guys think? Have any of you been to an Hublot boutique recently? How was your experience? What do you think about the watches? Are any of them for you, not for you? I know this could be polarizing, but I would love to see it and hear it in the comments below. Guys, please do not forget to check out delraywatch.com and also my Instagram, The Real John P. Thanks, guys. You've been chatting with John P.